come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base. Justice has scored the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the paddock. The Giants from the paddock. The Giants from the paddock.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I will brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Gets it back. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the program. I am your host, Dan Scott. Very happy to be with you here. on a Wednesday, and looking forward to a good show coming up later on. Dave Glenn will be here to talk all things Atlantic Coast Conference. We'll run down a bunch of other news and notes as well. But you can see sitting off to my right, your left on the screen here, Furman head football coach Clay Hendrix. Normally we don't have guests at the top of the hour, but if the man says this is when I can go, this is when we go. He throws that kind of weight around this place. Now, if you were 3-8, maybe not so much. But
I'll remember that. So.
No, you know better than that. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's been a little different January, just because of the early signing date. We'll sign 6 more guys a week from today.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't had to be on the road a lot. A lot of times in January you're spending, you may still be trying to recruit kids, but you're doing a lot of babysitting. Hadn't had to do a lot of that. So it's been nice to be here with our players, spend a little more time with them, be a little more in the weight room and getting ready for spring practice.
Or winter practice, as it may turn out, right?
So it's always a good time. It's always fun to start practice and got a bunch of guys back. So obviously we're in a little different situation we were a year ago, but need to make a lot of progress.
Why the early spring practice?
Well, I think first and foremost, our calendar here, we have a really early spring break. I think actually the first full week of March, when you look back at it, and then I saw where we were recruiting, the thought was, can we get it in before spring break and not have to split it up? I'm not crazy about splitting it up, getting them back afterwards. And so we thought we could. Injuries, weather, a couple things can affect that. But and then we'd like to be able to come back after spring break and just go as hard as we can, weight room, speed and strength stuff throughout the rest of the school year, because I think that is an area we have got to make some great progress in. We got to get better as a football team, but that's the way we felt like was best for us to handle both. And a little bit, you get a guy dinged up, maybe you have an injury, which is part of our game, a little more time to recover, all those things. But and then we had a little more time to prep, and very little staff change. We certainly have changed some things within our systems, but we think we can, hit the ground running. We're obviously way ahead of where we were a year ago.
Over 75 players, I think, returning who are here on campus. 16 starters, I believe, coming back. At least that's guys that ended up as starters from a year ago when the season ended. So it's a veteran group that you have coming back, and it's kind of funny to say that because some of those guys are going to be sophomores, but we're pressed into playing a lot of football. But the biggest holes that you have to fill are your best production spots, pretty much on the offensive side of the ball.
That's true. We are still a young, somewhat experienced group, but quite young, and that really, I think that's why the strength and conditioning is such a big part of what we're doing. I thought when we got, you've heard me say this, when we got exposed a few times a year ago, we got knocked around a little bit, and a lot of that was young immature bodies, maybe even some older guys that weren't quite as mature bodies as they should be. We've got some good frames to work with. We got a lot of work to do in that regard.
Yeah. To that point, before we move on to some other things, as most people know, we had him on the show on Monday. David Abernathy, the strength and conditioning coach, is leaving to go into private business here, so the search is on for the person who will fill that position. Now, he's over the entire school's athletic department, strength and conditioning, but primarily works with the football team first. At least that's how it is at most schools for the head strength and conditioning coach. How much of an input, if any, will you have in the hiring process?
Well, that's one of the reasons I had to be on at 10 a.m. this morning. That process is already underway. I would hope maybe early next week we've got somebody in place. Really, really strong pool of candidates, some really good candidates here as well. So, yeah, I'm part of the committee, but certainly that is a huge part. I think everybody here, our administration, understand the importance, really to everyone, but especially to the football program. And you know, I'm a big picture guy, I like to think, and you know, this is an important hire for Furman, for everybody. You know, got all those sports that rely on that, and you know, that person has got to be a, you know, it's kind of the, I guess, the head coach of strength and conditioning, and they've got to be able to get people underneath them that understand everybody has the same vision, and got a lot of sports you have to take care of, and I understand that. So again, just trying to get the very best person we think that's the very best fit, you know, for Furman and certainly for Furman football.
As people know, you have been at this for a long time. Player, coach, the years are adding up now.
Unfortunately,
but with that comes the benefit of a lot of experience, and that's where I'm heading with this thing. It's a positive.
Yeah.
You've seen strength and conditioning coaches. You've seen every aspect of this sport during your career. So in your mind, in this day and age, right now where we are, what makes a good strength and conditioning coach?
Well, I think this is a huge hire for our program, and you know, and this is just such a huge part of what we do, and I think it's you know, again, somebody has a similar vision, you know, certainly a team guy. We're all on the same page. You know, David did a great job here, really loyal guy, and you know, it was a huge advantage to have a guy like him in that position when I came back, and because we didn't change anything there. You know, we had already addressed some things we wanted to change, maybe do things a little bit different, just as how we train going forward. He had actually already started that process. You know, I've had tons of calls. You know, certainly it's a little different from hiring a position coach, but I think, you know, you follow the same agenda, so to speak. You know, somebody who can understand Furman, because we are a unique institution. You know, sell the heck out of positives. We have a really nice facility. You know, you get to work with great kids, but also, you know, finding somebody with energy who can motivate those kids, and you know, we want them to be excited. I think one of the things we've changed, I know football wise, and it's been obvious to me, just the way kids going to practice. You know, I think they kind of enjoy going to practice, you know, and you want to be the same way there. Now, you like to handle that in recruiting. You know, you ask that coach, does he like to lift in high school? Because if he doesn't, he probably doesn't want to lift for us either. But, you know, just getting kids excited about getting in there, getting better, going forward, and finding somebody who can do that. You know, so that certainly makes it a challenge.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out, and obviously once it's done, we'll be on top of that here as well. Right as the show began, the football schedule for next year was officially released. The 3 non-conference games come right out of the chute. This little school right up the road here is where Paladin's open, September 1st. My wedding anniversary, my 29th anniversary will be spent at Clemson. And then back to Elon. I guess this is a rubber match. And then Colgate here, and then everything else is conference play.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at that first one. That's you know, our kids will be excited about going over there and play. Obviously, an unbelievably huge challenge. I told Connor Shaw that was the primary reason we hired him. We're going to try to keep his streak going. But that'd be a huge challenge, you know. But that'd be a good you know, exciting for our kids to go play. But certainly a huge challenge. You go to Elon, you know, playoff team that probably one of the better teams picked in that league. Back up there, you know, certainly be a challenge. You play Colgate, you know, I don't know if people realize, you know, they ended up winning the Patriot League. They were co-champions with, I think, Lehigh. Lehigh got the automatic bid. You know, so not any favors done to us there to start it out, and then roll right into conference play. But you know, shoot, we're excited, and you know, I know we released it today. I'd gotten kind of the gist of it, you know, a few weeks ago about who and or when and where, you know, conference wise. But it'll certainly be a challenge for us.
You know, just my first glance at this conference schedule, I would have to think that things broke pretty well for the Paladins this year. You open up conference portion of your schedule, add an improving ETSU team. no question, but should be favored there. The only other 2 road games are at the Citadel and at VMI. Everything else is here at Paladin Stadium.
Well, I guess it's not showing. We're at Mercer, I think, week 11.
Okay,
Did that not make it?
No, they must have clipped it. Oh, okay, there it is. You can barely see it. So, all right. So
I knew we didn't. I knew it. We've got to change this. This 5 home game stuff. And I know Mike, buddy. I've talked to Mike about it, and he's certainly on board. So much of this schedule is done way in advance. So it's a little bit of it is what it is, and there's not a whole lot you can do to fix it except looking forward. And I would like to get to where we can play 6 home games at some point here in our place.
Yeah, right at the bottom of that graphic, you're right. I'm looking at online at FurmanPalace.com, and the November 17th game at Mercer is hidden. But beyond that, you go to ETSU, and then it's 3 straight and 4 out of 5 here at Paladin Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly love playing here. I know one of the things we impressed upon our kids was taking back our home field advantage, which for many, many years it was a true home field advantage. We played extremely well here, and I think we kind of got going that way last year, after I guess the first home game. So it certainly is nice to be able to play here. A mixture, we got, I guess, a couple of new staffs in the league. Some other guys. FCS is a little different. Somebody picks up a quarterback transfer, and somebody can sometimes go from maybe not being as much expected from them. There can be a couple of difference makers. I'm sure, I noticed the kid went to Jacksonville State from Clemson. I'm sure there are a lot of people in the OVC thinking, well, they won't be as good, and there's no guarantee that they get the guy, but they went from not having a quarterback to having a pretty good player.
Yeah.
That's what's a little bit unique, especially, at a position like that. But no, it'll be, I've learned every week will be a challenge. I think the key for us just is to see if we can go out here and improve a little bit each day, and and then continue to improve throughout the off season, as we get heading back into the fall.
This is Furman head coach Clay Hendrix joining us here. Spring practice starts Friday, so it gives us a chance to kind of preview that and catch up on some other things. And one of the things I wanted to get to, you referenced a moment ago, and that was the hiring of Connor Shaw as your tight ends coach. How did that come about? And just knowing what I think everybody knows about this young man, it would seem that this is going to be a great addition to your staff.
Yeah, well, it really all started when Drew had the opportunity to go to Lenore Ryan's head coach, and really, I think a year ago my plan was a little bit having a couple of guys in place with him and George, and that we felt like there would be no change whatsoever in what we did. Really the plan was put the system in place, and I'm a little bit of that. One of the things Coach Saban, I think the job he's done there has been pretty amazing with the staff turnover they had.
Mm-hmm.
But I've tried to take a little bit of his approach from a standpoint of, you get your system in place, and you lose a coach, the system doesn't go away, and you don't. So we would like to kind of plug into that system, as we go. Promoted George, and he kind of at the time said, Coach, quarterbacks. And I said, well, I think I'd really like to have you with those quarterbacks. But what I'd like to do is get a quarterback background guy in that tight end position, which is essentially what George did last year. He never coached tight ends, but he'd coached quarterbacks. But I wasn't in any hurry to do anything because I felt like we could recruit, do all those things. And then, when I finally got around to the point, okay, let's talk to some guys. I've known Connor's dad forever, actually competed against his dad both in high school and here in the conference, and knew of him. He had come out and done a little team share time devotion for us during the season. I think maybe the first time I'd ever actually met him. And then Brian and he and Brian Bratton are friends, and his name came up. He'd been thinking about coaching. I said, well, let's get him over here and talk to us.
Yeah.
And, and it was pretty obvious to me right from the start he was our kind of guy. He's just a fit. He's a just our kind of guy. You know, the things we look for. I mean, obviously, if you ever saw him play, you know, I've learned he's a cult hero in the state of South Carolina, particularly if you're a Gamecock fan. But just people had so much respect for how he played. Really, really bright. He's had some unique experiences, I guess, with those four different teams. I mean, 4 years he spent in the NFL. You know, and really up until even, I don't know, a month ago or so, he still had some people calling him about continuing to play. And, you know, we talked to a number of guys, and we just felt like he clearly was the best candidate for what we needed. He's been with us. It's been nice this month to be able to try to get him caught up. And, you know, yeah, he hadn't coached, and I've told him, you know, he's probably a little more apprehensive than I am, but he's really smart. You know, my philosophy is a little bit hire smart guys that are good workers and provide a little leadership for them, and it's kind of interesting to watch him develop. And I've already seen that about him, and I think the fact that he's coaching now what George had coached, I think will kind of put those guys in a room together as we start in the spring.
Right.
You know, because it's all new to him. You know, coaching's a little different than playing, just like recruiting when you've never done it. And I think we'll take the same approach this spring. You know, get him involved with a couple other guys where maybe he gets to shadow him for a day or two.
Yeah.
But he'll do a great job for us.
But, you know, when Brian Bratton joined this staff in the couple of years prior to getting here, I said this, and I think the same thing holds true for Connor. Brian, because of what he did here at this university and then in his professional career, and Connor for what he did at South Carolina and just the toughness and everything that goes along with him. He may not have the coaching experience, but he walks in here with a whole bunch of what the kids call street cred. He comes in with that football credibility.
Well, no question about that. And, you know, we put him on the board a little bit, and I knew he was bright. And, you know, some of the things we were looking for, you know, how do we advance what we've been doing offensively and where do we want to go? And I think you've always got to be, I don't know if changing is the right word, but tweaking. And, you know, I don't think you can. Evolve. Good word. But we just got to continue to evolve. And I knew he could bring something to the table. I wanted another quarterback guy on our staff. I felt like there was a time we could trade off, help George out a little bit in that regard, at practice. Certainly his background, you know, he has a great background in that. And, but it's been a really good fit. And I expect it only to get better, you know, as we go. Great family. He's a local guy. You know, there was no move involved. You know, he's got two young ones, and, it's been great.
Well, we will continue to watch it, but just expecting it to be nothing but a fantastic move for this team. Last couple of minutes before we let you go here, with a year under your belt now, how much, I don't know if easier is the right word, but how different, I guess, has this offseason been for you than coming in at the breakneck speed you had to come in last year?
Well, you know, it's a lot different. You know, I heard George talking, you know, we had a bunch of guys that were living out of their offices last year. And I don't know, everybody's family's here. I think that's maybe the biggest thing. Everybody's so much more settled. You know, having a chance, you know, the systems were already in place. Now, we did do quite a bit of change. And one of the things I didn't like, we kind of blew up our terminology system on offense. I wanted to reach, you know, we did it last year for a reason. You know, we tried to make it as simple, especially for Drew, you know, because he was calling new things, but in ways he knew them, and I was fine with that. But I just wanted to start back over. I thought it was a little bit easier we could come up with a better way to teach kids, make it a little easier for them to learn. So we've been busy with that. I knew we'd recruit well if we had a year to do it, and I think recruiting's gone really well. You know, this time last year we were still scrambling around trying to put a class together. So it has just been, you know, it's been significantly better. Our kids, I mean, just every part of it has been. It was a great year, and golly, it's hard to believe a year's gone. You know, it's hard to believe it's been a year.
Yeah.
My wife said something the other day about hard to believe we've been back here over a year, which I have been. They didn't move until I think March last year, but it was a fun time, and we're excited about the future. And you know, we just can't. You know, we just got to keep progressing.
Yeah.
You know, and everything we do, that's coaches, development, players, recruiting. I've said this fundraising, just the way we operate everything that we do. But it's an exciting time.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of which, fundraising, as we get set to wrap it up, you got the second anonymous gift, $1 million gift that is going to continue to help you do the things you need to do in the operation of this program. There seems to be a lot of momentum right now heading in the right direction. And I guess the two keys are, A, keep it going that way, and B, be able to capitalize on it.
No doubt. There's a fine line, between good years and great years and okay years and good years. And, it was called, we started that whole championship fund. I mean, we've been playing football around here for a long time, and we've played a lot of championship football. Not all the time, but that's what we want to play. We want to play championship football. And we want to be, I remember sitting in that press conference after that Wofford game over there, and, I knew we didn't play our best. And, I kept, I didn't say it, but I'm like, we'll be back. We'll be back. That's our plans. We want to get back in that situation again. And, you watch those better teams in our league, and we've got to close the gap, and just address the issues that we have and focus on those. And it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're that far behind. I really don't, but at the end of the day, football is a little different, especially a basketball, where there's only a certain number of games. They all mean a lot. And if it's one game, the difference between you getting in the playoff field and not, we got to give ourselves every chance to get back there again.
Spring practice opens on Friday. A week from today is the second and the traditional signing day. So when the signing period opens, and you'll be at the American Burger Company from 12 to 2, right?
That is what I'm understanding. I think we finally got that settled yesterday as far as a time. I think they'll make an announcement about that, and we'll cover, I guess, the 16 guys. We again still plan on trying to sign another group here next week. We took the 3 transfer kids that they're doing well already here. Maybe just kind of cover them, but good chance to get caught up on that for everybody.
A lot going on. It never stops. It's year-round, and this guy is doing a phenomenal job. Clay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you having me.
All right, we'll take a break, come back. Dave Glenn is up with us next. Don't go away.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimmented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, we are back on this Wednesday edition of the program. Our thanks to Furman head coach Clay Hendrix for coming upstairs and spending about 25 minutes with us ahead of spring practice and the Connor Shaw hiring and everything else that's going on with this football program in the offseason. We will continue to update you on some of those other events as news warrants and do what we can do to help keep you informed. A quick word about the Atlanta Bread Company. They are the primary sponsor of this program, the presenting sponsor, and we couldn't be happier with our relationship. Number one, the food is fantastic. The people are even better, and they've made a nice commitment to us to help us get this show rolling and stay on the air, and we are so appreciative of that. So when you visit them in Cherrydale Plaza, right down the road from campus here, please tell them that you appreciate what they do as well and enjoy the food and the atmosphere at the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza here in Greenville. All right, we transition from one guest to the next. He, as you know by now, chief cook and bottle washer of the ACCsports.com website and hosts the David Glenn Show, syndicated throughout the state of North Carolina, the appropriately named David Glenn joining us. Dave, how are you, man?
I am thrilled, excited, happy to be with you as always, Dan, and ready to talk ACC or, if necessary, Super Bowl 52.
Yeah, I know why you're thrilled and excited. It has nothing to do with being on this show, but you informed me as we were getting ready to come back from the break that you will be in attendance to see your beloved Philadelphia Eagles take on the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
That is correct, and I'm actually going on regular fan tickets. And so a lot of folks don't realize if you're a media member on Radio Row at the Super Bowl, which is a lot of fun. I mean, I don't want to downplay that. But you don't have even a press box seat if you're on Radio Row. I mean, you might be watching the big game in like a party room on big screen TVs as you can hear the roar of the crowd, at a game where you're right next to the game. But if you're on those regular Radio Row credentials, you're not really watching the Super Bowl, as much fun as the rest of the festivities are. So long story short, I'm taking my 18-year-old son, Anthony, to the Super Bowl. In my 50 years of life, I have seen the Phillies win the World Series. And, of course, I'm from Philly. I've seen the Sixers win the NBA title. I've seen the Flyers win the Stanley Cup in hockey. But as you know, the Eagles have never won a Super Bowl, not under the Super Bowl format anyway. So I'm hoping I can complete a clean sweep of my 4 favorite professional teams. But even if they don't win against the Patriots, I'm excited to take this trip with my son.
I got to interject this quick story. You talked about being on Radio Row and where you had to watch the game. Back in sometime the mid-'90s, when Nebraska and Miami played for the national championship down in Miami, it was a strange setup. I was working newspaper at West Virginia at the time, and the CarQuest Bowl was West Virginia and South Carolina, and it was actually the day after the championship game. Well, I went down to cover the CarQuest Bowl and just on a whim tried to get a credential to the national championship game. Well, it turned out that the lady who was over the credentials was a WVU grad. So she gave me a credential, but Dave, I had to watch the game on a big screen television in a room on ground level at the old Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
But then with 7 minutes to go in the game or whatever, got to go out onto the field with the rest of the media.
Nice.
And watch the rest of the game from the field. But it was kind of crazy. I go to cover a national championship game and end up watching it on television from the field level, which was bizarre, to say the least.
Well, that makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. It was crazy.
And Dan, you and I have been at this for a long time. I never take it for granted. I mean, I was at Duke UVA this past weekend, number 2 Cavaliers visiting the number 4 Blue Devils in college basketball. And even after 30 years of this stuff, I'm excited about it. But there is something different about enjoying a game, in my case, with a childhood favorite, where I'm not on duty, if you will. I'm not filing a report. I'm not, at work. I don't have a deadline to meet. I don't have interviews to conduct. I'm not complaining. I mean, I love my job, but this is a totally different animal. And when
Mhm.
you add the personal touch, it just makes it that much more special.
Well, everything I do is on a credential, and the one thing that I've done since the Reds opened their new ballpark back in 2003, I've made that my fan experience. I've never had a credential there. Always go with my family. We go once or twice a year, and that's the one thing I allow myself to be a fan and not have to worry about all the other stuff. Even though I could get credentials and do it that way, sometimes it's fun to sit in the stands and yell "kill the ump" like everybody else.
Well, up here, we have the Carolina Hurricanes NHL team based in Raleigh.
Yeah.
And growing up in Philly, hockey was a part of my sports life as well. And that's the exception that I kind of carve out. I'm on duty for ACC football and ACC basketball and even Carolina Panthers NFL football and other sports around here. But I am off duty for those hockey games, and I actually share season tickets with somebody. So, you can have a beer, you can invite colleagues, friends, family, and just, yell at the referees if you want. You can enjoy it in an entirely different way. And I'm glad I carve out that little corner of the sports universe the way you do.
Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. We're eventually going to get to the ACC, and in fact, we'll do it right now. Although the story swapping, I think, is intriguing as well. But big doings right up the road from where I'm sitting right now, or down the road, I guess technically, at Clemson, where Brad Brownell got his first victory as a head coach over North Carolina, and Clemson seems to be handling the loss of Dante Grantham just fine. Thank you very much. Now 18-4 after that win last night.
Yeah, Dan, and here's a number that's even crazier than the Clemson Tigers' number 20 national ranking. In the RPI, that metric that we discuss a lot surrounding Selection Sunday and seeding numbers and who's on the bubble and who's going to make it and who's not. In that RPI, the Clemson Tigers are number 5 in the nation. And they have 11 top 100 victories. That is even more than the Virginia Cavaliers. That is more than the Duke Blue Devils. That is more than other really good teams in the ACC. The Clemson Tigers already have an ACC best 11 RPI top 100 wins. They don't really have a bad loss. Their 4 losses are 3 ACC road games against quality opponents that are going to probably or definitely in 2 cases, maybe in another case, end up in the NCAA tournament. And then they had that loss to Temple way back before Thanksgiving. That's a heck of a resume. If you have that many quality wins and you don't really have any eyesore losses, that's what explains a top 5 RPI ranking. And it could lead to, and plenty of work to do, as Brad Brownell would remind us, but it could lead to one of the higher seeds that the Clemson Tigers have seen in a long, long time in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think one of the projections that was out there this week, if the tournament started this week, would have them at number 2.
Yeah.
And at least one of them. So as a number 2 seed. So it's really uncharted territory for Brad Brownell in his career. His first year they went to the tournament, haven't been back since. This was in a lot of ways, a make or break year for him, but it appears that Dan Radakovich's faith in his head coach is being rewarded this season. And it's intriguing, the more so coming off of last year, Dave, when they had one of the better offensive teams that he's ever had, the best offensive team he's ever had. And they had so many breakdowns defensively at the end of games. Well, the opposite is true this year. You get them in a close game, and they find a way to win it down the stretch.
Yeah, I've been following Brad as a head coach since he was at UNC Wilmington in 2002. And I think his first year as a head coach, they won the Colonial Athletic Association regular season and tournament title. And, of course, with that automatic bid, went to the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's rarefied air for the Seahawks, where he had been an assistant and then became the head coach. And he's almost always been a defense-first coach. And last year, a couple times, there have been anomalies along those lines. But this year is back to his roots, if you will. And he's, as usual, the coach of an outstanding defensive team, top 25 nationally at that end of the floor. And yet he has a pretty darn good offense. I mean, it's a better defense than it is offense. But when you look around this league, Louisville is elite defensively, but not great offensively. Duke is elite offensively, but not great defensively. UVA is somewhat similar. Amazing defensively, not always great offensively. The Tigers might be the most balanced team in the ACC, at least among the contenders. They're top 20 defensively in the metrics and efficiency rankings. They're top 30 or so offensively. And that's the kind of balanced basketball, not just balance between offense and defense, but you've watched them probably more often than I. They have the balance between, some low post scoring with Elijah Thomas, but some diversity on the perimeter. Some nights it's Marquise Reed, who got 20 against the Tar Heels last night. Gabe DeVoe is an excellent three-point shooter. He had 17 last night. Shelton Mitchell, obviously, is the other part of that Three Musketeers on the perimeter. And those guys, you can load up on one of them, usually Marquise Reed. But if you do, somebody's open, and those guards are pretty good at finding that open guy. So it's an amazing story. It's one of the better stories that the ACC has to offer this year. And I think in the end, we're going to be talking about this year as the best, most successful season for Brad Brownell, not only at Clemson in his 8 years there, but in his 16 years as a head coach overall.
Yeah, well, he at 18-4 right now after that win last night, and continuing to climb up the rankings, he is definitely headed in that direction. We're visiting with Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. Dave, what can you tell us about the suspension of Jalik Felton from North Carolina? I thought the wording of the statement was very interesting. It didn't say he was suspended from the team. It said he was suspended from the university, which would seem to be a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, all I can do is kind of paint the big picture for you because I don't know the specific reason why he was suspended by the university. When somebody skips classes, it can be a team suspension. If somebody is caught, even something like smoking marijuana, even if it's not a legal charge necessarily, a coach could impose a team suspension for something like that. It can be anything, skipping weight training, skipping study halls, almost all of those types of suspensions that we see come from either the athletic department or the head coach or the sport itself. When you're suspended by the university, it's usually something much bigger than that. It could be academic in nature. It could be something that we find out is associated with a legal charge. But all of that is speculation right now. We just know that by rule, if you're suspended from the university, obviously you're not eligible to compete for an athletics team. So that is the backup point guard at UNC, and another point guard named Seventh Woods has been out for weeks with his own injury. So Joel Berry, who kind of looks tired right now and he's a fantastic senior point guard, but he looks like a guy who at times is being asked to do too much for Roy Williams this year. Now he has lost both of his backups at point guard, and who knows if or when either one of those backups is going to be returned to the team.
We'll continue to follow that and see what develops there. But moving on, at NC State, Kevin Keats in his first season has basically completed the trifecta as far as the state of North Carolina is concerned. That really has to endear him to the fans there in Wolfpack country, having wins over Wake Forest, but then adding North Carolina and Duke to that.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Wolfpack Nation hates those two shades of blue especially. So beating a mediocre Wake Forest team is one thing. It's nice, but it's probably not much more than just nice this year. But you beat Duke by double digits in Raleigh. That's going to endear you to Wolfpack Nation in your first year as the head coach there. And then even more impressively, I thought, when you go to Carolina, keep in mind that has been a hammer-nail rivalry in men's basketball. In the last 30 games prior to this past weekend, the Tar Heels had won 27 out of 30. That is about as lopsided as you get in anything that can call itself a rivalry. And yet on the road, in the face of that kind of recent history, Kevin Keats takes the Wolfpack into the Smith Center and comes out with a win. I mean, there are NC State basketball coaches who were there for a long time and never got a win in Chapel Hill. So he does that in year one. He beats Duke in year one. He had that nice split with the Clemson Tigers. He beat Arizona way back before Thanksgiving, and Arizona is still a top 10 or 15 team right now. So he has 4 huge wins in his back pocket: Duke, Clemson, North Carolina, and Arizona. He doesn't have a lot of quality wins beyond those 4, but there's still time here in February, since we're on the eve of that month, to add to his resume. They're on the right side of the NCAA tournament bubble for the first time right now. And as long as they keep building this positive team chemistry and obviously building the confidence that comes with these big wins, I think Kevin Keatts is going to, be one of those great stories where Brad Brownell is overachieving at Clemson. Tony Bennett is going to be a National Coach of the Year candidate with what he's doing at UVA. And Kevin Keatts has a chance to add his name to that conversation. The Wolfpack was expected to be a solid team this year, but I don't think it was an assumption that they would be an NCAA tournament team. They had a chance, and at least until now, it looks like they're in the way of making the best of that chance.
Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. 2 more quick things, David. We'll let you go. First of all, from your website headline, Wake Forest Insider, Danny Manning's demeanor a concern. What does that mean?
His body language on the sidelines is sometimes alarming. And when you have a struggling team and your coach shows his frustration with you, it can send them into that much more of a downward spiral. And their guards are just not playing very well now. Now, Danny had his NCAA tournament breakthrough last year, so he's getting a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because he got the Deacons back to the big dance for the first time in a long time. But this season is in the process of being an enormous step backward. John Collins was that early entry to the NBA, and that hurt the Deeks a lot. But, yeah, it really boils down to body language. I mean, you and I as parents, Dan, we know sometimes your child needs to be reprimanded in a more harsh way, but sometimes they need a little bit more of an even-keeled delivery of the message so that you just don't make their downward spiral that much worse.
Finally, 1 week from today is the opening of the traditional signing period. A lot of the drama has been taken out of that because of the December 20th early signing period we saw for the first time. But schools are still going to sign players, and there are still some big names who are making decisions or not revealing decisions, or you know how these things work. What kind of surprises, if any, do you expect to see next Wednesday?
I really believe, Dan, that 80 to 90% of the drama is gone. I mean, some schools told us on signing day in December that they were done. And I don't know if that makes up half the ACC, but it might be close to half the ACC. Now, other schools have said, wait a minute, we might sign 5 more guys. But generally speaking, it seems like 80% of the players, or at least of the top players, signed in what is now the earlier signing period. So, yeah, there'll be some big names that make splashes, but even some of those who didn't sign in December have announced their commitments. So that means there's that much less drama on signing day. So we were all wondering how this new schedule would work. I think the bottom line is that December is the new signing day. And for the most part, only the real passionate followers of football recruiting are going to be doing jumping jacks and backflips on this traditional February signing day.
Well, as always, keep an eye on it and see what happens, and I know that you're going to do that as you do with everything else. Dave, tell folks how they can see what you're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, go to ACCSports.com. We just talked with Tony Bennett. We talked with other ACC coaches and star players on a regular basis, football and men's basketball and otherwise. As we like to say, if you like football, men's hoops, and recruiting, and you like it with an ACC flavor, nobody has done what we have done over these last 20-plus years at ACCSports.com. Whether you like the print stuff or the web stuff or the audio stuff, we hope you'll check it out, and that is our Grand Central station, ACCSports.com.
As always, been a little slice of heaven, my friend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be looking forward to a full report next week.
Count me in. Thanks, Dan. Go Eagles.
All right, that is Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. Before we go to break, a word about Hall's Chop House. Do not forget, we will be live from Hall's, downtown Greenville, on Friday. That'll be coming off of the win over Macon. You know how I'll be on short sleep. We'll get in about 2 o'clock in the morning. And if you've ever been part of a short sleep show, about anything can happen. So we'll see what happens. But we'll be there live. You can visit 7 nights a week and Sundays for brunch and dinner. Allen Brothers Prime Steaks, that's what the menu features. That's where it starts. Everything else falls into place from there. And again, don't forget, if you have a meeting of any kind, corporate meeting, a anniversary, a birthday, anything coming up, they have plenty of meeting space and the menu to make it worth your while. That is Hall's Chop House, the Greenville Steakhouse. We will be there on Friday doing the show live from 10 to 11. We'll be back to put a wrap on things on this edition of the show right after this.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Traveler's Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, we are back with the final segment of the program. Our thanks to Clay Hendrix. Our thanks to Dave Glenn for joining us, making today a very easy show for me, and I greatly appreciate that. I need all the stress-free days and stress-free shows that I can get. Quick word about OpSource Staffing. They, of course, have 5 locations: Greenville, Spartanburg, Gaffney, Charleston, and one in Arden, North Carolina as well, providing contractors to companies in the manufacturing business, from welders and pipe fitters all the way down to production and inventory control and industrial labor, everything in between. They are an independent, faith-based, privately held staffing, recruiting, and workforce management company that began in 2007 with a mission to serve and connect great people to great companies. With OpSource, it's all about the relationship, not the transaction. They believe that by building relationships, they'll become an integral part of your overall staffing experience. Find out more. You can give them a call toll-free at 866-870-8133 or online, opsourcestaffing.com. And as always, be sure to tell them that you heard about them here on the show. Well, the football schedule, as we talked about briefly with head coach Clay Hendrix, was released this morning at 10 a.m., and as you take a look at it here on screen, the 3 non-conference games, first 3 games of the season, there's no interruption, and from there, it's conference play the rest of the way. And I got to tell you, talking, as I mentioned with Coach Hendrix during his segment at the top of the show, looking at this, I think this conference schedule breaks very well for the Paladins. You open on September 22nd at an improving ETSU team. There's no question about that, but it's also a team that Furman has dropped 50-plus points on in each of the last 2 years as they have come back into the conference. But again, they're an improving program, so you take nothing for granted. But you open there, and then you come back, and the next 3 and 4 of your next 5 are here at Paladin Stadium. September the 29th, Western Carolina comes in, off week, the first week of October, and then October 13th, Wofford, October the 20th, Samford, to the Citadel, October 27th, and then back here for Chattanooga before closing out at VMI and what will be a very difficult game at Mercer. But to have those 4 out of 5 games situated where they are, right in the middle portion of the schedule, I think that bodes well for the Paladins, just looking at it on the surface right now. Of course, you're opening at Clemson. That is your play-up game, your money game, and then the rematch with Elon, as I joked with Clay, the rubber match. Played him twice last year, lost to him here, and then beat him up there in a thriller in the first round of the playoffs. And then Colgate makes its way down here. That was the first win for Furman last year after starting 0-3. And, of course, that was the first of 7 consecutive victories for the Paladins in 2017. So, overall, not a bad schedule at all. I'm telling you, I love the way that the conference schedule breaks for Furman. You get Wofford at home. You get Samford at home. Those were 2 of your losses a year ago in the regular season. And then, the game at the end of the year against Mercer down there should be an absolute barn burner, and you expect that there are going to be some playoff implications on the line heading into that November 17th matchup. What are your thoughts? You see it there. Of course, none of the times have been released yet, but those are the dates. That's what the schedule looks like. Again, I think it's a very favorable schedule, just looking at it on the surface for the Paladins. I think it's going to end up being a schedule that's going to serve them very, very well in 2018. Outside of that, we continue to remind you that Friday will be live in downtown Greenville at Halls doing the show there. Tomorrow we'll be right back here, and then Tom Van Hoy and I will be taking off for Macon, Georgia, for the game against Mercer with Bob Ritchie's basketball team. That's a 7 o'clock start tomorrow night. And then they will go directly from Macon to Charleston for Saturday's 1 o'clock game with the Citadel. And we'll be back here on Friday and then going back down on Saturday. So a lot going on, and we will be here to try and get it all locked and loaded for you on the show. Going to get out of here about 5 minutes early because coming in right behind the end of the program, Bob Ritchie's coming in, and we're going to record the All Den podcast, episode 13. It's been a couple of weeks, so we're looking forward to getting that done, and that will drop later on this afternoon. Anyway, have yourself a fantastic day. We look forward to seeing you back here on the program tomorrow. Until then, thanks again to Clay Hendrix. Thanks to Dave Glenn. I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you, and so long, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.